Everyone, another week down, and I thought I'd just do a video on some trades I did and some observations in the stock market. Well, I haven't done anything with Google, still sitting there, expected. I was thinking about shorting 5 up front Fridays because of this 305 pin, but I just gonna let it sit there. So nothing with Google. Bros has rallied through the pin. Look at that. I wonder why. No news. It rallied on higher volatility. So that's interesting. And you can see that this 50 pin here has been holding up for quite a while. And let's take a look. So here's Bros. And so there's Gamma sitting at 55. I know open interest, I think there's the higher, yeah, the big one's sitting up here. So you could see there's additions here on February 17th, and now there's additions here on February 19th. And as the price gets higher and higher and higher, this gamma starts becoming stronger, right? You could see this gamma gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And what we really want to see is once we approach this 55 in March, that we can blow through it. And sometimes it's probably just going to consolidate around this level. And if volatility really starts coming down, because it's been fairly elevated here, if it does come down and break through this 18 put gamma, then hopefully we can see the lift in the equity past the 55 pin that's sitting there. But a lot of the open interest is sitting at 60, and the long-term one that I'm trading is still sitting there. Here, it's this one. All the open interest is sitting there at 75, see? But it's moved up front, kind of straddling this 50. But that's a good sign. It's good, positive, a nice little move. It's like 14% or something from the low, something like that. And it's looking pretty good. Also, I moved the relative and per expiry here, so it's easier to, work through it instead of going to the settings and like messing with settings. Like you really don't touch this after it's done. So I just moved it there, so it's easier to flip back and forth, right? So next week you could see there's I thought that was gamma. There we go. So next week you could see that there's this pin trap here, so maybe it comes back down to 50, maybe, but there's huge gamma here, which might be an attractor. So we'll see what kind of happens there over the coming weeks. But we really don't want this to reverse to 45 because we're holding April 60s up here. So if this like reverses down to 45, it's highly unlikely in 1 month it's going to rally all the way back up to 60. So so you could see how like even 1 or 2 months up front is sometimes not a lot of time. It's a bit greedy, and we've had our really nice moves so far. We just have to see it accelerate through this 55 pin. There's a lot of gamma up here, so that can help fuel things. And let's see if there's a lot of delta. Yeah, it's pretty much all delta. There's a lot of puts here, so it may not push entirely through, but it could help it do short covering. A lot of this could be short covering as that delta falls. As this price rises, this delta will fall, and these ones become a lot stronger. There's some really strong deep in the money delta right now, which is a good sign. So we're just kind of holding on to it and see how this develops. So haven't touched that, but nice move. The low to high was about, 15%, somewhere around there. So nice move. Very crap price action, and then right below the pin, you got buying above the pin. And this has a lot of short interest. I think it's 10 or 11% last time I looked at it. Next thing I did is I put on a TPL, and there's this long-term October 500, 600 spread. See, right there. It's all call gamma. Well, not all, some upfront, but it's all call delta as well. So that's just a squeeze, and that's why you get this price. That's why you get this price action, because there's a squeeze going on. And so I bought Marches because that's the upfront one. I'm kind of doing a quick trade to see if I could go through here and hit this 600. So I did a 550 600 for $10, right? So 560 is break even, and if it goes to 600, that's 40 points. So it's a 400% profit potential. Now, these are really hard. The call spreads are fairly hard because I don't have my Thinkorswim up, because the return profile, look at the return profile, this is going to be your loss. This is going to be at expiration. Oops, that's supposed to be a flat line. There we go. So that's like kind of at expiration. But what tends to happen with shorter date, so that's at this green line here. What tends to happen is you get this, I'm not going to be able to draw it on a trackpad. It looks like that. So like tomorrow, that's what the profit curve looks like. So you can see that if it approaches the 600, because that's what I shorted, you could see that there's a lot on the table for profit. And so this area here is probably only like 200%, right? Maybe 250, something like that. If it goes to 600 very quickly, like next week or something. So, oh, sorry. If it goes up here very quickly, you know, you still have time in the contract. So call spreads, you get this like really weird profit curve. And if we do get up into the 200, 250% very quickly, and I'll just watch some price action there, maybe check where the pins are, see if they're still holding up. But I may just take profit, right? I mean, 250% in a week or something is, I mean, I'm not going to argue, right? So this was, it's slightly less than $10 because I got filled at like $9.91 or something like that on one of them. But I'll just put $10 because that's what it is. And then I shorted Fiverr. That's the call gamma. Here's the put gamma, right? And look at this. So the put gamma is here, and just look at the price action. Buying, 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 went below, buying, went below, buying. See? So you could just watch the price action and see if the price is responding to this put gamma. Here, pins, gamma, right there, 500. So you can definitely see it responding. It's on the hourly. And not much else. I'm still waiting. Metsi had earnings and fell down where the pin is. Down here. So far, decent reaction. But kind of waiting on this. Just going to see what the price action is around here. Let's take a look. I don't think I have... Don't have Metsi on here. Let's look at Metsi. Here we go. So there's really a lot of upfront gamma here. Looks like it could rally to 18 for March 20th. That's interesting. And is this 1530 still there? Okay, it's still there. Is it this one? Okay, that's 16. So there's a 1630 and a 1530 and a 1935. It seems like the real big play is down here at 10, because you're going to be at the lowest level and you got all this overhead, all these overhead spreads. So I'm just going to give it some a little time here and just kind of watch how this reacts. Let's look at relative so I could see where everything is. Yeah, so there's the 1530. It's delta 2. So I'm probably going to wait and see if we can get down lower. Maybe not, but you know, maybe this 13, somewhere around there. Let's look at open interest. That shouldn't have oh, yeah, it should have. Okay. Okay, all the short-term interest looks like it's up front here for March 20th. I'm not sure where the next one is. It's kind of hard to see where the next one is. Expiration relative. It's looks like it's this one, the 30 there. So there's all the puts. There's the upfront one, and here's the long-term one. Because it's relative to the color, so it's probably that one. Okay, so it's not too bad. So maybe something down in this level would be the soft layup, and maybe we could trade the May earnings and just kind of, hold it out because this is January. It's a long spread sitting there. So if we're in May, we could probably trade, these Septembers that are sitting there. Maybe longer. We'll see what the prices look like. But that's on the watch list. TMC, did that come down to $5? Okay, you can see it's still sitting there. That's the open interest. Gamma, it's not very clear. It's kind of in limbo right now. So I'm just going to let this, it could go up, but it could go down, who knows. It's not very clear. Let me go back to my watch list. Okay, bros, we have TPL, very short-term trade, trying to hit that 60. I'm just going with the squeeze, basically. Google, this one, these 280s are showing up. That's kind of cool. We're below put gamma, which is probably not the greatest thing because if volatility compresses, this is really going to rally because volatility is already elevated. But what's interesting is volatility has been holding up at this. Oops, it's not what I wanted. Volatility has been holding up at this 1825. Okay, it's still sitting there. It's from March 18th, 2 days before equity OPEX. And that's been there for a while. I think it was lower at one point. It was like 1625 or 1525. But volatility has been rising, you see. And after this goes away, it looks like down, down, down. It looks like volatility would compress short term, but it's really hard to look at that long term in volatility land. But we could still hit 25 and still be within this higher volatility regime, which technically means that maybe, that brings things like Reddit down to this longer term pin here. Like this longer term spread that's sitting there. And it looks like we got some March 27s coming in now. Okay, that's kind of lower. Okay, it's only 25. So what I'm waiting for is like a pull down. You see this one right here at 95, which is kind of where we had some support. Well, it'll create support. So, and that's probably kind of pushing towards May's earnings. So maybe it's just going to chop through May. Maybe we'll have earnings. And then through the rest of the year, if volatility actually hits this 25 through May, here's May. It's only for March though. But if it does come up into here, and then we see this pull down, this pull down, this pull down, that's going to give us a very strong indication that maybe we're down here in Reddit, and then we can push through the bottom put pin and hopefully go back up to 220. And that's a really big wide spread to be trading. You could probably make 8-1 on that if you're just patient. Don't force the trade. Get it down here. That's where the trade is, way down here. Everyone didn't think from here it would barf. It barfed. And they're trying to buy the dip, and they're going to get liquidated again. And they're going to give up. And that's kind of when we start coming in. So just know that with volatility, that we can get increased volatility. Maybe that pushes Google down just a bit, and then we rally again. But you can only take this day by day. It's really hard to, forecast volatility. Just kind of watch what it's doing, right? You could see that it pushed up through this 18 pin. It was like 15 at one point, or 14 somewhere down here, and it moved upwards. But you could see it comes below. You get volatility. It didn't quite reach 25, and it came back down to this 18. We had NVIDIA earnings, and then it pushed back up again. So it's definitely responding to this 18 level. And that 25 is fairly large, so maybe it's going to hit that 25 and that'll give us some opportunities to find buying. Because if you look back and through history on vol, so this 2022 was the interest rates rising, and that was the correction, the chop, and the large caps and the decimation of, well, a lot of tech. And you could see we've been fairly elevated, compared to some historical regimes. But I mean, even looking at this price here, if you just like draw a line here, right there, it's pretty rare to be up in this area for long periods of time, unless we're going to go through some chop. And so it's sitting there, and we haven't broken through yet, right? But do note, there is the 25 still lingering for March 18th. See that? There's some upfront 22s here, which looks like that's what it's responding to. Is this 22 right there? Is this one? And maybe this one, right? So just know there's a lot of gamma sitting at this 25. See that? Is open interest increasing on this? It is. How about the put side? Yep. So this spread is being highly managed. Someone's managing that spread. So just watch that. We could have one more spike, which might align with like 24,000 on the NASDAQ 100. There's some big pins down here at 2,400. There's one right there. There's one right there. Right? So maybe that's downward push. We'll have to see day by day. Let's see if SPX kind of rotated. Well, it's got this big 6,800. These are kind of too far out, I'd say, to start making guesses on things. Okay, it's 70.50, and that's kind of way too out. But you could see this March 30th. That's probably, is that like the JP Morgan? It looks like something JP Morgan would put on. Yeah, this is probably like the JP Morgan trade. That's probably what that is. But 70.50 is a big target. That would be just an upper rounding. That'd be pretty large for an upper rounding. It'd probably push higher if that happened. But yeah, kind of too hard to play with this stuff short term. We just have to look at where volatility is and try to time that with our longer term spreads, right? So if volatility is going to push higher, maybe we can expect it to push below this spread at 115 and read it. So we have to anticipate things in the market. We anticipate it to come down, and once it does what we think it's going to do, and it's down here, and volatility is elevated, and if general market volatility starts to fall, then the put deltas start to fall. And if the put deltas start to fall, the dealer has to buy back. And at some point, it's going to cross this threshold, and you're going to get a rally like this, right? And then vice versa, right? So down here is where we want to buy it, down here. Okay, and I think that's really all. Oh, AVAV. I think AVAV might be an interesting trade. It's got a lot of put stuff down here, so typically like APO. Remember APO? I talked about that. Let me see. Yeah, see that? So remember this spread here and back here? I talked about it on one of the videos. It was like 12th or something. Here. Like you saw this spread here and you're like, oh, I'm going to trade that spread. But look at all this put stuff down here, right? I mentioned that. I was like, well, maybe we just got to kind of wait and look at rejected that spread, which isn't a great sign. And lo and behold, we're much, much lower, right? So you do have to be aware that you can imagine like if price was here and there's no calls overhead like this, it's very thin, then it would be great to trade to the downside. There's just no calls. There's nothing going to push it higher. But down here, there's just so much activity that the spread is becoming irrelevant. You could see back here that it didn't even respect the spread too. So there's a lot of hints in equities that give you kind of like those warning signs, if you will. So AVAV, like, there's still a lot of puts down here, right? And it already rejected a few times, so maybe this one you just gotta kind of wait. It's a May trade, so I mean by March you'd have to probably make your decision or something. I'm not sure, but yeah. Anyway, it's just kind of how I think about things. Like you got really strong put stuff down here, and it's not very thin. There's no thin puts down here to make it like more viable for an upside push. So I think you probably have to be a bit careful with that one. Not to say it can't go up. I'm just speaking out loud. Look at end phase. Look at this one. Look at that. Great rejection. I talked about that. I was like, well, do I want to short that? It's an energy, blah, blah, blah. But you could see how it respected the pin there. There is a little bit of calls ahead. Some bigger pins here at 60. So maybe 60 would be like a better short. But so far, nice rejection off of this 50. See? And probably targeting 30. That's the spread. And you just got to watch price action. And this fell down with volatility rising. Right? So it's in tandem with volatility. So that's good, right? And remember, you can, I think, did I put, yeah, save and load screener is on max. So I have this spread screener and I just load it and it saves my settings, right? And I probably want to do 60 days because it's just easier. It's less stress. It's easier. You just give it time to work, you know? And so this is what I look at, and I sort by market cap is good because you tend to get a lot of names that have a lot of options, that have liquidity, and things can move very nicely. They could squeeze very nicely. They can correct very nicely. And things that are really tiny market caps generally don't have too much options. Sorry, I had a brain fart. They don't have too much options, but the liquidity and volatility is crazy because it ping pongs very quickly between the spaces. But it's really hard because you don't know if like tomorrow this just drops to $5 or it rallies back into this 130 and then drops back down to 750. It's really hard to trade these lower, smaller cap names because you really don't have a lot of, turning points, or you don't get this nice little move up like that. You get very big, harsh moves to every pin. It's very volatile. That's all I'm trying to say. Really difficult to manage. UNH was on the watch list because of this spread here, this long-term spread, 200, 350. Looks like a coin flip right now. Not really sure how to play that. Okay, that's 211 billion, and they really don't have a lot of open interest. So I take it back. But hey, look at SEG. We talked about SEG. Rallied through. So that's kind of one case where there was a lot of put open interest and it just rallied through it. So see, it's an art, not a science. iTub is pretty thin. Did I turn off ETFs on this thing? I did over here. There's no ETFs. Okay, let's see. BK, Airbnb. Is Airbnb still in this kind of spread? I think the spread was this one, if I recall. 120, 140. Looks like we got some upfront March 20th. This 140, 115. You see it almost hit that and it went back up to that spread there. But it's been in that sideways chop for a long time. Look at that. So that's just chopping. Bam, that looks interesting. Okay, this one, APO, see, we talked about that. That one was the opposite of our idea. Look at that, rejection there in KB. See that on the spread? Live view, the spread is over here. 130, 180, 130, pushing up. Probably going to hit that 180. That might be a short-term trade if you guys have some balls. That might be a short-term trade. Look at BE. Look at this spread here. And there's a lot of put gamma starting to show up. That's a bit interesting. And you can see it's been in a squeeze. These are hard to trade. Usually, like when you're trying to find an anti-consensus trade, because that's what this is. It's all energy, right? Well, this spread is pretty wide. It might work. But more often than not, let's say you try to buy like a 120, you're not really going to get a lot of profit out of that. It depends on your time frame, but usually these anti-consensus trades that to the downside, I haven't really found them very lucrative. But you can see the spread. There's TPL. I'm just trading this spread here. That's the one I'm in. And so just looking for just a continuation of this gamma squeeze. And just push it through this 550 through March. And see if we can just take some profit there. Maybe we can make 100%, 150%, and call it a day. Always book profits. You know, no one ever went bankrupt booking profits. Nothing there. That's a bit interesting. It's kind of in no man's land. What we're really looking for is price that is below the spread. Well, we can't see the spread because I'm looking at gamma. But look at that one. That was kind of thin trading there, and then it completely rotated down to the spread. You can see the spread's been there for a while. That's kind of interesting. So you can see like it squeezed, and now it's aggressively rotating towards the large open interest. That tends to happen. This is a big spread. Real estate, REIT. I don't know if I want to deal in real estate. SNN, really thin. GGG, machinery, grinding gear games. Okay, that's like, let me go back. That's kind of the similar pattern, right? Where you have nothing and then it probably rotates down to the pin, but there's nothing here. Like, there's no option. So something else other than options is most likely driving that. Okay, Logitech. The spread is before earnings, which is also the yearly. You see that? There's a quarterly and a yearly on this date. And it's before, the spread is before earnings. That's kind of interesting. It bounced off of this. This is open interest. Let's look at gamma. Okay, gamma's pretty tight. So it's kind of just chopping within that range. Maybe it's not the greatest idea. Open interest sitting in the middle. Tim, too thin. Okay, this is a Best Buy. Well, it's kind of rejecting. You see all the you see all the option activity down here? And you could see that this spread has been there for quite a while. Right? So maybe it rallies and, I mean, it's still June. It's 6 months. So maybe it sits within that trap, but you could just see like how choppy this is. There's a lot of puts down here. It's before earning. Oh, they have earnings up front with their yearly. That'll be interesting to watch. I want to put that on the watch list. Is gamma still there too, or is it up front? Okay, gamma's still there too. Okay, so I'll put that on the watch list. We'll see what happens on March 3rd before market open. If it's a positive result in the price rallies, we can probably trade this spread. Right? There's a lot of gamma up here. So maybe we could see what happens on earnings and see what the price action looks like when it hits this, what is it? 67.50. And we'll see what the price action looks like. Let's see if it stabilizes. And maybe we could trade it up there. That's a big spread. What is that? 10 points, 20 points, something like that? There's AVEV on the watch list. We'll see how that works out. See if we can find others. I'm looking at Gamma, which tends to be up front most of the time. And so if we can just find... I mean, it's not too bad. There's a rejection, but it's kind of thin. I'm, looking for some like that's kind of very specific, right? It's kind of thin. It's like pretty wide, and it's 4 points. I don't know if like you can make money off 4 points. Maybe you can. Software application. This is out till July. There's a lot of open interest in calls up there. Is Gamma handling that okay? Okay, it's like this one is just as big as this one. Now, this is a bit interesting. I mean, it rallied at this point, and then you still have this spread on, which was put on. It was actually put on back here. You could see like this line here and kind of like this line here. Let's see if that's true. Yeah. End of the year. See that? It's like right there and like right there. So this is fairly interesting. Maybe this is one of those things we just kind of wait for volatility to hit 25 or above, and then we pull the trigger for maybe some July trade. You just buy the 55s or the 60s and just let it ride and see if you get a squeeze. Sometimes you could check bar. This one is so large. This 55 is so large. Oh, it's Gamma. Okay, there's the spread. So it's 5K, 5K, 980. There's not a lot of open interest in this thing. So I guess it could squeeze, but it's just not a... It looks like a lot, but it's not really a lot there. Okay. Pretty thin. Neville. NE. Let's turn this back to relative. Spread's way down there. And so you see all the calls. This is like the inverse where there's all the puts. So that's how you know to kind of like not really trade this spread. There's just so much overhead calls and it's being squeezed. And now this is deep in the money and it's just driving prices higher. You're going to get a Gamma squeeze there. So a lot of overhead at 95 on this Aura Minerals, right? So I don't know. Anyway, this is what I do. I just kind of look for names, see if things look okay, put them on the watch list, and pull the trigger if they look good. But that's the update, and I'll see if I can find some more interesting things later. Thanks, guys.